I never thought love could feel so invisible. Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly forgotten. For 17 years, I took care of my parents. I gave them my time, my energy, my future. And I told myself it was temporary. Funny thing about sacrifice, it has a way of turning permanent when no one's paying attention. My name is Elaine Parker. And for nearly 2 decades, my life revolved around a house that was never really mine. I didn't move in because I wanted to. I moved in because someone had to. Back then, my parents were still mostly themselves. My mom could walk, slowly. My dad still drove, carefully. But the cracks were there, even if we pretended not to see them. My mother's hands were the first warning. Arthritis, the doctor said. She'd wince just opening a jar, then laugh it off like it was nothing. My father's memory came next. Little things at first. Keys in the freezer. The TV remote in the mailbox. Calling me by my sister's name, then apologizing like he'd committed a crime. I was 38 when I packed up my apartment. 38 and still telling myself this wasn't forever. Just until things stabilize, I said. Lord knows I believed it. My siblings promised to help. They always do. At first, my sister lived 2 states away. Busy job, busy life. She called every Sunday like clockwork. My brother was closer. Same city, different priorities. He stopped by when he could, which slowly became when it was convenient. Weekly visits turned into monthly ones. Monthly visits turned into holidays. And holidays turned into apologies. And without anyone ever sitting me down and asking directly, I became the caregiver. I cooked every meal. I cleaned every room. I organized pillboxes by day and color. I learned how to lift a grown man without hurting his pride. I canceled dates. I turned down promotions. I stopped planning vacations because planning meant hoping, and hope felt irresponsible. When friends asked why I never traveled anymore, I smiled and said, family comes first. What I didn't say was how lonely that sentence felt. My parents weren't cruel. They thanked me. They relied on me. They trusted me. But gratitude doesn't pay bills. And love doesn't stop time. Years passed quietly. That's the thing people don't tell you. Your life doesn't fall apart all at once. It fades. Morning pills, doctor visits, quiet dinners. At night I slept lightly, listening for movement down the hallway, waiting for a cough, a fall, a call for help. Somewhere along the way I stopped being a daughter and became a system. 5 years passed, then 10. By year 10, I wasn't tired anymore. I was numb, and numbness can make time disappear. I watched my siblings build lives from a distance. Promotions, new houses, kids, birthday photos posted online. I clicked like, then went back to folding laundry. I told myself this was what being strong looked like. I didn't know yet that strong is what people call you when they don't want to help. That realization came later, much later, and I didn't know then, sitting at that kitchen table, sorting pills into plastic boxes, that one day I would sit in a lawyer's office and realize something that would change how I saw those 17 years forever. But back then, I still believed sacrifice would be remembered. I was wrong. Somewhere after year 10, I stopped marking time. Days blended together. Weeks slipped by without names. I measured my life in prescriptions and appointments instead of seasons. People would ask, "How are your parents doing?" And I'd answer automatically, not because I was hiding the truth, but because the truth had become routine. My father declined slowly. That's the cruel part. If it had been sudden, maybe I would have noticed how much it was taking from me. Instead, it came in inches. He started asking the same questions. Then he started asking where his parents were. Then one night, he woke me at 2 in the morning, fully dressed, insisting he was late for work. He'd been retired for 15 years. I guided him back to bed like you would a frightened child. Soft voice, gentle hands. After that, I stopped sleeping deeply. I learned how to listen even while dreaming. My mother tried to help. Lord knows she did. She'd sit at the table and fold napkins slowly, apologizing every few minutes for not being useful. That hurt worse than the work. I told her it was fine. I told her I was happy to be there. That wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the whole truth either. My siblings called. Less often now. When they did, they sounded tired. Busy, like caregiving was something happening somewhere else. They'd say things like, "Let us know if it gets really bad." Really bad. I used to wonder what that meant. Then, one afternoon, I found my father standing in the backyard, barefoot, staring at the fence like it had personally betrayed him. He didn't know where he was. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and realized something uncomfortable. This was never going to stabilize. It was only going to get harder. I stopped updating my resume. What was the point? Caregiving doesn't look impressive on paper. It doesn't come with titles or references. It comes with back pain and quiet resentment you don't know what to do with. Friends stopped inviting me out. Not because they didn't care, but because I always said no. After a while, people stopped asking. I told myself I didn't mind, that I was past that stage of life anyway. But sometimes, late at night, I'd scroll through old photos, trips I never took, a life I paused and forgot to restart. Then my father fell. It was early morning. I heard the sound before I understood it. A thud. Then silence. I found him on the bathroom floor. Confused. Ashamed. The hospital visit blurred together. Fluorescent lights. Clipboards. Doctors speaking gently, but not kindly. They started using words like progressive and management. Never recovery. That's when hope changed shape. It stopped being about things getting better. It became about keeping things from getting worse. My mother aged rapidly after that. Fear does that to people. She watched me more closely. Like she was afraid I might disappear too. One evening, while I was helping her into bed, she grabbed my hand. "You didn't have to do this," she said. I smiled. Yes, I did. But later, alone in the kitchen, I wondered if that was true. When my father died, it wasn't dramatic. No last words. No final speeches. Just a quiet morning where he didn't wake up. The house felt hollow after that. Not sad exactly, just off balance. My siblings came home for the funeral. They cried. They hugged me. They told me how grateful they were. I believed them. I believed it meant something. After they left, the house went quiet again. Too quiet. And I became my mother's whole world. Every meal, every conversation, every doctor visit. She depended on me completely. And I told myself, when this is over, things will even out. I didn't realize then that I was already counting on something that had never been promised. After my father died, my mother changed in ways I didn't expect. She became quieter, not confused, aware, painfully aware. She watched me the way people do when they know they're running out of time. Like she was trying to memorize me. I took care of her alone. There was no schedule anymore. No backup plan. Just me. I cooked softer meals, cut pills in half, learned which nights she needed company and which nights she wanted silence. Sometimes she'd sit at the kitchen table and stare at her hands. "I never meant for it to be like this," she'd say. I told her not to worry. I told her we were fine. That word again. Fine. The truth was, I was running on fumes. But when you've been strong for so long, people stop seeing exhaustion. They see reliability. My siblings visited more often after Dad's death. Not enough to change anything. Just enough to ease their conscience. They brought groceries, stayed an hour, talked about memories, then left. My mother declined faster than my father. Her body gave out before her mind did. That made it harder. She knew what she was losing. And she knew what it was costing me. One afternoon she asked me something I wasn't prepared for. "Do you think your brother and sister understand what you've given up?" I hesitated. "I think they try," I said. She nodded slowly. "I hope they do the right thing," she said. I didn't ask what she meant. I wish I had. When my mother died, it was peaceful. She went in her sleep. No alarms, no rushing, just quiet. After the funeral, the house felt empty in a different way, not hollow. Finished. My siblings hugged me tightly. They called me a good daughter. "You gave up everything for them," my sister said. I believed those words meant recognition. I thought, finally, someone saw me. A week later, the lawyer called. He asked us to come in to read the will. I wore the same cardigan I'd worn to my mother's appointments for years. Out of habit, out of loyalty, out of a life I didn't yet realize was about to be redefined. The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and lemon cleaner. We sat in a row, my brother, my sister, and me, like children waiting to be corrected. I sat closest to the window. I always like knowing where the exit is. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and opened a thin folder. He spoke gently, professionally. "I'll begin with your father's will," he said. Everything was divided equally. The house, the savings, the investments. 1/3 each, I nodded. Fair. Then he moved on to my mother's will. That's when my chest tightened. She had left personal items to each of us. Jewelry to my sister. Tools and watches to my brother. I received the caregiving notes, medical journals, appointment logs, 17 years of proof. The lawyer paused, then continued. The remainder of the estate is to be divided equally among all 3 children. My ears rang. I waited for something else. A clause. A sentence. Anything. Nothing came. My sister exhaled loudly. "Well," she said, smiling, "that was straightforward." My brother nodded. I didn't speak, not because I was angry, because I was trying to understand. On the drive home, my sister talked about selling the house. "We can split the profit quickly," she said. "Elaine, you're already living there, so it'll be easier." Easier. Like 17 years had been a convenience. That night, I walked through the house alone. The hallway where my father used to wander. The kitchen where my mother's pills lined the counter. I had given everything to that house, and now I was just another heir. I found the envelope while cleaning out a drawer. My name was written in my mother's handwriting. My heart skipped. Inside was a single sentence. "Elaine, thank you for everything." That's when it hurt the most. Because thank you isn't the same as being seen. The house felt different after that. Not emptier, just indifferent, like it had already started letting go of me. My siblings didn't waste time. A realtor was called. Photos were taken. Dates were discussed. No one asked how I felt about it. They assumed I would adjust. I always had. My sister started visiting more often. Not to help, to measure walls. She stood in the living room one afternoon and said, "You know, this place will sell fast." I looked around. I saw hospital beds, late nights, quiet sacrifices. She saw square footage. My brother suggested I move out temporarily. "Just until it sells," he said. "It'll be easier for showings." Easier, that word followed me everywhere. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table and asked myself a question I had avoided for years. What happens to me now? 17 years had passed. My resume was thin. My savings thinner. Caregiving doesn't build retirement plans. It builds exhaustion. I started looking for apartments. Small ones. Affordable ones. places that felt temporary even in the photos. The woman on the phone asked about my work history. I was a caregiver, I said. There was a pause. Oh, she replied politely. Do you have recent pay stubs? I hung up after that. My sister stopped pretending. She started talking numbers. How much do you think we'll get? Should we invest it or just take the cash? She said we had shared the same burden. I began packing. Not furniture, memories, photos, cards. A sweater my mother wore when she was cold. Each item felt like a goodbye no one warned me about. One evening, my brother came by. He stood in the doorway. Awkward. You know, he said Mom always knew you were strong. That's why she didn't worry about you. Strong. That word again. Strong is what people call you when they don't want to help. That night, I lay awake, imagining my future. Starting over at 55. No home, no partner, no safety net, just resilience. Worn thin. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I was invisible. I didn't plan to say anything. That's the truth. Silence had been my language for most of my life. But silence has a breaking point. It happened during a family meeting. Papers spread across the dining table, the same table where I had fed our parents for years. My sister talked timelines. My brother talked taxes. They spoke around me. So, my sister said, finally looking up, Elaine, you'll be out by the end of the month, right? Something shifted. Not anger, clarity. I stayed, I said quietly. They both paused. I stayed when you left, I continued. I gave up my career. I gave up relationships. I gave up time. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. I'm not asking for praise, I said. And I'm not asking for more than what's fair. I took a breath. But I'm done pretending this was equal. My brother frowned. Elaine, we didn't ask you to. No, I said. You didn't. You just benefited. Silence filled the room. My sister crossed her arms. So what are you saying? She asked. You want more money? I shook my head. I want acknowledgement, I said. And I want time to figure out my life without being rushed out of the only home I've known for 17 years. They exchanged looks, the kind people give when they realize something costs them. After a long moment, my brother sighed. We can delay the sale, he said. A few months. It wasn't generosity. It was inconvenience. But it was something. That night, I felt something new. Not relief, not victory, dignity. For the first time, I had spoken for myself. The house didn't sell right away. Weeks passed. Then, months. And during that time, something unexpected happened. I started noticing myself again. I woke up without checking a medication schedule. I drank my coffee slowly. I sat in silence without listening for footsteps. My time belonged to me, and I didn't know what to do with it. I updated my resume. 17 years reduced to one line, family caregiver. But when I stopped apologizing for it, it started to look like something else. Commitment, responsibility, strength, the kind that holds things together. I applied for a part-time job at a local clinic. During the interview, the manager asked, "Why now?" I answered honestly, "Because I finally can." She smiled. I got the job. The house sold in the spring. On the last day, I walked through every room. I didn't rush. I thanked the walls for holding my life together when no one else noticed. Then I locked the door. The money arrived a week later. 1/3. Exactly as the will promised. It didn't feel like a reward. It felt like closure. I moved into a small apartment near the clinic. Nothing fancy. But it was mine. My siblings and I still talk. Carefully, with boundaries. Love didn't disappear. It matured. And I finally understood something. Sacrifice without limits teaches people how little they need to give back. If you're listening to this and you're the strong one in your family, the dependable one, the one who never complains, please hear me. Love does not require self-erasure. Gratitude should never be assumed. I don't regret the years I gave. I regret not valuing myself sooner. But even that regret taught me something. It taught me that it's never too late to choose yourself. Even after 17 years.